Mass Crusaders working overtime, fighting crime. Secret raiders who will neutralize soon as they arrive. So we're here today to talk about M.A.S.K. And as well as I sang that theme song is about as much as I think of this show. Pardon me, Eddy. I thought about like going all out, like since we took coming in like a full costume and everything else and keeping the camera off right until I started singing badly and flicking it on.
Right.
But you know what? M.A.S.K did not put that much effort into their voice work, so I figured why would I put that much effort into the performance?
Can I tell you adventures in hearing loss in regards to this show? Because I've had hearing loss my entire life, and so when I saw this as a kid, the first time I saw it, because this is one of those shows where the theme song tells you the premise of the show, right? It's like, cool,
Yeah.
as a kid, I got that. I always heard the line, so the line actually is, Tracker's gonna lead the mission, Spectrum's got such supervision, right? I thought the masks possessed everybody because what I heard was Tracker's gonna lead the mission and Spectrum's got such supervision, as in supervising over the mission.
oh, that's creepy as
And
fuck.
so I thought this is a weird thing where like aliens have possessed humans and taken over their cars to try to protect the Earth, and it's none of that. It's GI Joe with cars.
Whew. Wow, that would be scary.
You mentioned the voice acting. I will briefly note that like easily half the people in this cartoon are all voiced by one guy, Doug
Yeah.
Stone. So
Yeah,
that's part of it.
that is ridiculous. But good for him. I hope he got a paycheck for every single one of them.
Seriously.
Which also leads to another issue, though. While I am all about diversity and seeing it and everything else, I would also like for people from those diverse people they're putting on screen, to have been paid money and be able to do the voice work for those characters,
Right.
and not necessarily Doug.
I will, because I'm assuming you're referring to the fact that he voiced Bruce Sato.
And I think he voiced Hondo too.
Yeah, he did voice Hondo too, right?
I'm surprised he didn't voice Barbara, I think, if that's her name.
I will say Ali Bombay, which we did not get the pleasure of seeing in this run, was voiced by Brian George, who is British but also of Indian descent, or sorry, of Asian descent. So like that's the only time. But like Nevada Rushmore, who was a Native American character voiced by a white guy. So like he's like the one exception to all of them being basically have Doug Stone and occasionally Graham McKenna, and that's it.
All right. So the reason we chose M.A.S.K is because I had never seen this show as a kid. And I was like, you know what? We're doing a retrospective. There's a toy line. It's like, I want to check it out and see what it's all about. I should have seen it as a kid. So then I would have some sort of built-in love of the show instead of coming to it as an aged, world-weary, grumpy old man.
That's fascinating because I did see it as a kid, and admittedly I bounced off of it because the premise, for those who don't know, is that it is secret agents who have cars that transform into vehicles that transform into slightly different vehicles, sometimes with weaponry. And so I thought, oh, they're cars that transform and stuff. I like that kind of thing. And I watched it. It's like, oh, there's way too much G.I. Joe in this Transformers cartoon for me. It's basically as a kid, I thought,
It's funny you say that. Since I knew next to nothing about it, I did a little research. And one of the reasons this cartoon exists is because they were trying to find something that was in that middle ground between Transformers and G.I. Joe, because kids love transforming vehicles and they love something about G.I. Joe. They also knew that kids really loved characters in M.A.S.K.
This is Kenner, right?
I believe so. And you said, Eddy, no, I don't want to. There's so many things right now. Part of it was, fucking mask. All right.
Fucking
So you
mask.
said they're too much like GI Joe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna push back slightly on that.
No, that's what as a
I
kid I
think
thought, I should say. As like
okay,
as a kid, I thought there's too much GI Joe.
because one of my notes specifically is these are normal people with like no special. Like Joe's got all this great, super cool training, also the stuff. These people have they're subject matter experts. This is what I do,
Right.
and I have a vehicle that lets me do X better. That's it. That's unless of course they're Tracker, who looks a lot like Duke, by the way, from G.I. Joe, like a lot like
Yeah.
Duke.
Yeah. Yeah,
His
like
mask is plutonium.
well, I'm right. No, like as a kid, I was like, ah, this is too much of GI Joe. And at the time, I was not a fan of GI Joe, um, because I had only read the Larry Hama comics, which were amazing. But as an adult, no, certainly this is basically a bunch of just people who want to help out, and they have masks that they never really adequately explain where the masks come from, but it gives them
I know,
superpowers.
I know, because
You do? Where,
I did a little
you,
research. So not only
okay.
that, did you know that there was a comic series, Eddie? And in the
Uh,
comic series,
yeah.
Matt has a brother named Andy, and Andy, Matt, and Miles all work together to create this great technology. Miles sets like a fire and steals the technology, killing Andy. So Matt takes on like all this mass stuff and it gets all these people to go and do missions with him. While Miles is the head of Venom and uses it for robberies, tyranny, world domination, kind of like Spectre, except with worse results.
Right. This has got to be a Marvel comic because A, Marvel did a lot of those licenses, and B, it feels like a Marvel twist.
I think so because one of the things they also talked about having like a shared universe with the Micronauts, Mask, Rom, and some other people
Right.
all
Right.
together.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, one of the amusing vagaries of how this has evolved is that because, it is Kenner that made the toys. So they were obviously trying to compete with Hasbro. Hasbro now owns Kenner, which means they now own Mask. When Hasbro tried to do a unified universe, that Mask was part of that, and it's weirdly appropriate because at least in the comics, when they Mask had like a 10 issue comic in like 2018, maybe I don't think it was even that long, maybe it was only 5, but the premise was a branch of GI Joe splinters off, and with reverse engineer technology they've gotten from Cybertronians, use these to try to confront uh, uh, Venom, who has not Venom, Miles, whatever his name is, who has basically
Miles Mayhem.
Miles Mayhem, yeah, sorry, um, who apparently used to work for GI Joe, used to consult for GI Joe, and left with this technology, and so they used the technology to go after him. And it's like it's a dumb premise, but like GI Joe, but with Transformers technology, is a very obvious fit. Like if you're going to unify these, of course, Mask is going to fit in that kind of slot. So I was like, okay, it's not a terrible fit actually, but also really shows how clearly this was inspired by those two toy lines.
Oh, so it's fascinating because another thing is like for Gloria Baker in the show, she has like a Porsche, I think that turns into like a sub or something. That is a toy that never came out.
That's
Instead,
sad.
they put her with some other vehicle, I think. Yeah, they put her out with like a Lamborghini instead that never appeared on the show. But then you get into the fact if we're going to talk about the actual toys themselves now, how they would make a lot of male toys, but not that many female presenting toys or female toys.
Yep.
They'd always be in a smaller run, or they wouldn't put them out right away. They might be like in the third or fourth batch. And there was something very similar that happened with this. Kind of like I think
Right.
even if you go and talk about Star Wars, how when they released Star Wars toys, they released a Leia eventually, but not as many Leias as they did Han and Luke's and Chewie's.
Right, because at the time, marketing logic, they called these peg warmers because the idea is they would be put on pegs in the stores, but they would just sit there. Um, Marketing has since found out over the years that the reason why the female presenting toys did not sell well is because they were not marketed well because they thought that they wouldn't sell well. When you actually
Mhm.
market female presenting toys, turns out they sell just fucking fine.
Yeah.
And now we don't do that anymore. Well, we still do that, but not as much anymore.
So I got to go down a few rabbit holes like that. Were fascinating for me because my knowledge of the action figures and that is not as high as yours. So it was interesting to see and read kind of how
Yeah, no, it's
I
really
don't think
cool.
they ever released RC from the Transformers movies, things like that.
Yeah, they had a prototype, they never actually made her.
Yeah.
Now there's like a
And the
million
series
RC toys,
itself,
but
I think, was a co-produced from a French company and an American company.
that's interesting because I know that in the '90s that happened a lot, but I didn't realize it went back as far as '85.
In the second season, it was totally became just the American-based company, which is interesting because the first season is the one that we focused on more. That focuses on like them fighting Venom as like a crime organization or like a world dominating organization,
Right.
versus second season that was like 10 episodes where it turned into sort of a racing thing, which of course makes sense. They're in vehicles, they might as well race, but
It
that
became
became the
Wacky
focus of
Races.
it. Yeah.
Jesus. Well, it's interesting because just I didn't do much research, and I had not watched it for, like I said, an episode or two, maybe in the '80s when I was a kid. Now that's just like, yeah, not for me. Um, but watching it as an adult, I immediately felt like if you had told me Mask was a complete Japanese cartoon that got imported to the US and then redubbed, I would have absolutely believed you because it has strong Voltron vibes.
It's because it was animated in Japan by the Ashia Productions.
Okay. I mean, that made part of it. I mean, a lot of cartoons were animated in Japan at the time, but like, there's a very specific anime look to this. The way that people are drawn, the way that the action sequences are set up, it feels very, again, Robotech-y, Voltron-y in a way that I can't quite articulate. And maybe it's the wooden acting over top of it that maybe is making that connection for me. But certainly, I was just like, I had to double check. I was like, was this actually a Japanese concept first? Like, no, it was purely American concept.
Oh, and now that I've seen it, I'm still wish I'd seen it as a kid, so I'd have a better respect for what we're about to do. And I've
Yeah,
tried to find it, but it is very difficult because it feels like a lot of the acting was more deadpan, and it could have been possibly a choice for the '80s cartoons, and I'm not remembering now because we started with Turtles, and Turtles had great voice acting. People that like
right,
were excited to be here for the mission.
right. Well, I mean, so part of it is, to be honest, I think up down to voice direction. Uh, um, Two of the biggest voice directors of the era were Wally Wood and Susan Blue. And as soon as I rattle off their respective uh, list of work, you're going to recognize why. It's like Wally Wood did the Transformers, Wally Wood did GI Joe, Wally Wood, Susan Blue did some Transformers, season 3 Transformers. She did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I believe Wally Wood did Real Ghostbusters. So like a lot of these shows that have survived on memory ultimately stem to those two voice directors. So I think that's part of it. You know, it's like if you're a good voice director, you can get a good performance out of an actor. If you don't, you get this.
Anything else before we get into Mama Mask?
Mama Mask. Yeah, no, let's get into it.
Season 1, Episode 1, The Death Stone. Mama Mask! We open on a group of scientists led by Professor Stevens investigating a radioactive meteor crash site. She pontificates about its beneficial uses before Venom swoops in and steals it with a remote control alien craft. All the scientists suddenly disappear while Stevens escapes with proof of the meteor before being rescued by Tracker. Tracker reviews the tape and calls a Mask SME squad in before taking the Mask Vader into the secret lair. Meanwhile, Venom performs experiments on the meteor and prepares to sell the Death Stone. They cut it into 1, 2, 3 pieces, and Mask rolls out as they solve the case and split up to track the 3 different pieces of the meteor, leading to an epic vehicle battle with transforming vehicles. When Scott, the kid of Tracker, I don't know if it's his son,
It
adopted,
is his
if
son.
it's his nephew. It doesn't say in the show.
I know. Well, it does in the show later, but not this
I
episode.
don't
Not
think
this
so. I think
episode.
Scott calls him dad, but why is such a billionaire playboy living alone in a manor with a child and a robot? Lots of questions, Eddie. While Scott plays hide and seek in the middle of the fight, um, Hondo dives out to protect Scott. They end up retrieving the meteor. They use it to heal Hondo, and the meteorite is drained of all its radiation, and Professor Stevens looks very sad. The end.
Right. Right. Do you want to start with the good?
I love the fact that Professor Stevens is a woman and a scientist who's out there kicking it, Eddie, leading a team of
Yeah.
scientists at the crash site. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big quote unquote twist where she's in a full radiation suit, and one of the Venom guys, I didn't keep track of all of them, pulls off and is like, "Give me that, buddy," and or oh, "Give me that, Mister," and she goes, "I think you mean Mrs.," and kicks the shit out of him. And I'm just like, all right, cool. I appreciate that.
I felt my Lord of the Rings moment though, Eddie, where she comes out and she says, "I am no man," and she
I
slays the
am no
Witch King.
man. Right.
We're gonna
Also,
cover
as
Lord of the Rings one day. Just wait for
maybe
it.
at some point. And again, just as much as we correctly have given stick on the voice acting in regards to them, there's actually more diversity of nationalities of characters at the start of this, which is unusual for an 85 show.
Yeah. Like it is staggering the amount, and it is pretty constant throughout all the episodes we're going to touch on that you see different people from different backgrounds and everything else. I
Yeah,
still stand by. I wish they could have been voiced by people from there, but I also understand they had a limited budget. But at the same time, you can't stop Doug from pulling all those paychecks or voicing like 80 characters.
right. It's like, Doug, give everybody else some work too. It's cool.
And I love the fact that she already has a theory in place where she's going to like use it to heal people and all these other things, these great ideas.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened to all the other scientists, Eddie.
They just gone for reasons.
Because
I
they
mean,
show them.
I'm just amused that like in 2025 watching a show about a bunch of people trying to do serious science and then some asshole with a drone fucks everything up, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks.
But then he just runs out. He's in like a full radiation suit, but he has no helmet on. We've established it was a radioactive site. It's
Well,
it gives me time to overthink.
as we all know, as long as you have 80% of your radiation suit, you're basically fine.
Yeah. But then we get a great scene where she kicks a butt out of the Venom guy. Then she like starts to try to escape. He has to call in reinforcements, and it takes two of them to knock her off the road.
Right.
Good beat, good action start. Questionable voice acting for some people. But then she wakes up.
Too bad she doesn't last beyond this episode.
Yeah. I was thinking when I hadn't seen it, I thought, is she going to be like join M.A.S.K now? That's what's going to happen?
Yeah, same.
No. Nope. But it's the fact that she wakes up in Tracker's mansion out of everywhere she could have been to start with.
Right. And this leads to your point. Like, she immediately knows who Matt Tracker is. And it's like, oh, you're famous adventurer Matt Tracker. And I'm like, first of all, adventurer is not a job title, right? It's just so it's like clearly in the 80s it was apparently 80s was like, yeah, you could just be an adventurer and that's your career. You get your pension for being an adventurer. But then he calls the whole team together. So it's like, okay, so Tracker's the rich vigilante that calls together all of his friends with highly specialized vehicles to fight crime that he deems acceptable and worthy of fighting. So it's basically Bruce Wayne.
I was gonna go with I forgot her name now, from Bubblegum Crisis, who has all the tech, was a scientist, hires them all, calls them all in when she needs them, and then sends them home.
I will say, since we're talking about Bubblegum Crash, as much stick as we have and are about to give this show, that theme song is fucking banging, right?
Yeah.
It is not quite to hurricane levels, but it is pretty close.
I will give compliments to both the theme songs that we've had so far because it is an
Yeah,
earworm.
yeah,
Sticks with you.
yeah, it does. That's not a trend that will continue.
This show, you know how I feel about kid sidekicks, Eddie. I made
Yep.
it pretty clear with Robotech: The Next Generation how I feel about kid
Uh-huh.
sidekicks.
Yep.
This doubles down. Not only does it give
Uh-huh.
me a kid sidekick, it gives a fucking kid sidekick a sidekick. Oh
Yeah.
my god,
The kid comedy sidekick has his own comedy sidekick who's even more comedy and even more sidekick. T-Bob is
that he
fucking
mounts,
terrible.
to ride around on. So he
Yeah,
could stay
yeah,
in the middle of the adventures. Oh, I hated it. I hated it. I want
yeah.
to tell you I did, but I did.
T-Bob is Scott and T-Bob are the worst. And like this episode immediately some of the worst like on we're mad because we can't go on missions, so we're gonna hide on a truck and then get the shit blown out of us, and then and someone nearly fucking dies because we decided to be pricks and whine about the fact that we can't go on dangerous missions with cars that open their wings up and you can fall the fuck out of. Uh, Fuck you, Scott.
I am curious though, how many mask agents does it take to match a Venom agent? Because there's maybe two Venom people, maybe three, and in this time he calls in I think 8 mask people.
Yeah, right.
Are
Now,
there's a disparaged level of skill.
that I agree with. I will say the running joke of Matt Tracker calls someone in the middle of their day job and you see 2 seconds of them having to immediately abandon what they're doing was always consistently funny for me throughout this whole run, right? Especially in this one where like I think it was oh which one was it? It was Buddy Hawks, I think it was, who's making a pizza and just like his watch goes off, he just lets the pizza fall to the ground and fucking runs off. And the guy behind him's like, "Hey!" It was great. I don't think it was supposed to be that funny, but I found it consistently great. Like
I
one guy's
think it was
playing in
supposed
a
to be.
rock band, and it's just like, "I'm in a little rock show. Fuck it, I'm out." It's like, what?
I think it was supposed to be that funny. That's like the
Because
big
that's
stick for it
good,
because it is a centerpiece of every single episode.
right? And like in the sense of the computer always elaborately explains here is person, here's their code name, here is their vehicle, and here's their specialization. And they see 2 seconds of their real life. It's like it does tell you a lot about what their character's supposed to be in a very short period of time, which is very GI Joe-ish in that regard. Like here's their code name, here's the cool thing they do, and except for they're all in which military branch you're in to see which part of life are they in.
Yeah.
And so I think that was very effectively done. And it's sad that that and the fights, the vehicle fight, were like the only interesting parts of the episode, and the female scientist, like the only parts I was like, oh, I actually like that.
What? Okay. They had some good quips though. Like I think one of the ones about a good good what was it? Good driver but bad diver was a nice play on words. That was a line that
Yeah,
sort of popped up in there for the thing. Like those were nice. It's I can't get past the voice acting. I think they made a mistake having one person do all the roles. I'm going to stop harping on it, but I want to specifically talk about it here because this is your first episode. This is what you bring all the kids in and everyone in. Like this has to be your hook.
yeah,
And I guess it was successful because it ran for 75 episodes, but it
right,
seems to be lacking in something that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had.
right. Um, I will say that, and part of my frustration is that most of the Venom actors, with the exception of Sly Rex and Cliff Dagger, who are very clearly the same guy, and double check they are both the same actor. But Miles has a dedicated voice actor. Vanessa has a dedicated voice actor. So like most of the Venom people actually had distinct actors, whereas most of Mask were more or less Doug Stone, and so they all sound either samey or ridiculous accents. Whereas the Venom characters, with a couple of exceptions, seem to have different personality. And so it's like I kind of like Venom better.
So
Like Miles
now,
Mayhem was like the most fun out of all of this. Miles Mayhem understood the fucking job. I'm here to chew scenery and say ridiculous shit.
since we're talking about Miles now, is Miles a Stalin stand-in? If you look at him, his uniform, how they
Oh,
drew him.
now that you say that, yeah, I mean, otherwise it was Wilfred Brimley was the other person I was thinking of. Yeah, no, I could see Stalin.
Wow.
It's the we can't say Russia, but it's Russia.
I'm saying it's like right there. And now that you mentioned about the voice acting and how that's definitely different, that that adds into my thinking that all the mask people suck. Because
Yeah,
there's Tracker, there's Scott and T-Bop, and everyone else is pretty much unimportant. They just come
right,
in to do one thing barely, and then they go away.
right. As a note, since I'll bring it up here, so I don't have to bring it up every time. There's also this really annoying running gag, which is even worse because they're both characters are played by Doug Stone. But where Bruce Dotto will say some random bullshit,
Oh,
and everyone goes, "What is that? I don't understand." And Matt Tracker completely understands what's being on, and it's like this episode, it's just like, okay, I can kind of see where Bruce was maybe thinking of something and Matt turned it into an actionable plan. But it becomes ridiculous very quickly of like Bruce says random bullshit. And Matt's like, what actually meant was we should go over here and punch this guy in the third button. And she's like, that's not at all what Bruce said. Bruce didn't say any of that. But it's so much the fucking Fume, not Fumichu. Who was the Japanese detective? Oh, I'm thinking of his name.
oh, crap! I can't believe I forgot his name. Now that you said it,
Yeah,
Charlie
detective in
Chang.
Hawaii. Charlie Chang, yeah. Very much that. I'm going to say cryptic
Charlie Chan.
Chinese shit. And it's very, didn't like it.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else about this first episode?
No, I think we've
Okay.
adequately eviscerated this one.
Episode 11, Magma Mole. Mama Mask. The cartoon opens on a Japanese history lesson with very insulting accents before a massive tidal wave hits. Tracker tells everyone to grab the railing, and they do. Then Tracker and Rhino investigate, discovering Venom is using a powerful drilling device, the Magma Mole, to burrow beneath Tokyo and cause flooding. Then Tracker makes a call. We bring in more mass specialists to tackle the problem. They track Venom to a tunnel, and we get our first battle. But they fall into a trap. But somehow Mask still manages to stop them and stop the widespread devastation before it's too late.
So let me start by saying when you make the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Japanese accents look authentic and not racist, that's impressive.
Oh god.
Like I want to go back to the flashback with Splinter of like when he gets stabbed and can't bow down. And it's like that's positively egalitarian compared to this bullshit.
Oh man. I still wanted to love this show because I'd never seen it before. It looked like it had a great
Yeah,
premise. Now I can see the movie version of this. It's grittier where they get rid of
yeah,
Scott and T-Bop. And it would be awesome.
right.
But right now having watched halfway through it, I realize this is not a mass show. This is Scott and his friends, is what the show is.
Yeah, Scott is the viewpoint character for the show, and as soon as you realize that, it gets so much worse.
And I've like had to readjust my thinking when we move on. But for this episode, I'm thinking to myself, why does he keep taking Scott on missions? It just makes
Right.
no sense to me.
Yeah.
He has money.
Hmm.
He could send him anywhere in the world for school. He could hire a bodyguard to watch Scott. There's an array of things he could do.
Yeah.
Eddie, they brought in
Yes.
like 20 mask agents this episode. Take on like
So
3
many.
Venom people. I love seeing the different people, but why do you need so many of them?
I mean to sell toys, right? That's the answer. Is the but I mean I think it shows you the problem with the show too is we need to throw in all of his toys because people are excited about them, but like yeah, but none of them have personality. The only the only people with personality in this site, sadly, is fucking Bruce Sato. He has a racist personality, but it actually is one.
Yeah.
But all of the Venom characters, again, a couple of them are kind of stock growly New York bad guys, but all of them at least have some personality. And so it's like I kind of care about, and frankly, Venom has some cooler vehicles. Although Bruce Sato's rig with fucking smokestack machine guns is pretty cool. Not gonna
You
lie.
don't like Spectrum, the car that when it pops out the things, it can fly and it can do almost everything?
And where it's very clear that a tracker will fall out if the second he banks.
All right. But all right, come on. We get the fact that Miles like beats Tracker in the air and like I think this is the right episode. I don't know anymore. They all get them molded together now from their plot sometimes. No, it's not. I'm not going to say this one. It's because
Okay.
there are two water-based episodes. Because what I did for this is I
Right.
looked up the best episodes of Mask on
Uh,
two or three different lists, and I went on IMDb and I compared the rating numbers and I pulled the ones that got the highest ratings, except for the pilot, because I always feel you have to start with
right.
the pilot.
Right.
Even if this pilot was totally pointless, you got to start with the pilot.
Right.
I do love the fact, though, that every episode seems to open in a different country somewhere. So it's already
Yes.
teaching you about world travel. I'm looking for good points now, how you asked.
Right.
So
Right.
it's teaching you about travel. It's trying to teach you about the world in a very questionable manner, but it's showing you that learning is important and learning about other cultures is essential.
Right. And I mean, kind of a weird again, like this episode specifically, the voice acting is just god awful to Japanese characters, but because it's done by a Japanese studio, right? Like the actual visuals are like, no, that actually seems reasonably accurate. Um, so it's like, okay, I'm kind of, and again, because I keep feeling like this was a Japanese show at some point. It's not. I know that's not, but it's I couldn't get that out of my head at least the first couple episodes, and so I was like, okay, that more or less tracks. It's just bad. Again, in my head, I was like, it's bad dubbing. Um, but you're right. Like the idea that these are world travelers, um, uh, it it it, it reminds me more of a uh it's hard to describe. There's a couple of shows that are like this, but the names are escaping me at the moment. GI Joe didn't even really do this much world traveling per se. You know, it was kind of roughly the U.S. and occasionally the U.S.'s version of Europe. But it does seem like Mask is like, no, we're an international organization for some reason.
And they specifically call out what country they're in to show you that they're traveling the world. With G.I. Joe did it, I don't even think they called out specific places. They were like Europe, and that would be kind of vaguely it.
Yeah, and lots of fictional countries too. Yeah.
So I'm seeing like a lot of good points it could be here, but it's not quite gelling. And all right, the Baker Thunderhawk character that popped up, the animation when I saw it instantly reminded me of Rook from Robotech or Pris from Bubblegum Crisis. Like her animation style and everything else. The fact that she's also, I think, based on a bike.
Is that? Yeah, I'm trying to remember who Baker is.
Thunderhawk.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, right. The woman with the yellow helmet. Right. Okay.
So, like the animation style instantly reminded me of those characters in that
Yeah.
vein.
Yeah. Totally. Mhm. And it's like I do like that all of the masks are interesting. You know, visually interesting. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly helps because the personalities are indistinguishable in a lot of ways. So, like, oh, that's the guy with the red beard. That's the guy with the yellow mask. You know, it's like okay, at least it gives some visual distinctions there. Granted, Baker's is the girl one. But I mean, still, the point is like, oh, that's the interesting looking character with this interesting looking vehicle. I can at least, when I go to the toy store and buy that toy, I know which one I'm looking for. So I do appreciate that, yeah, and yeah, I can sort of see the Bubblegum Crisis vibes, which again plays to my. I I wonder how much of this is the Americans just gave the Japanese studio toys and said just go, right, and so they did it in a style they were familiar with, as opposed to shows like G.I. Joe and Transformers, they give you model sheets and a certain visual target they want to hit, and the studio has to adapt to that. This is like, just do it in your own style, but just here are the toys. Maybe that's kind of what happened here because, I get to see a lot of other 80s anime and going, oh, I can see kind of how that connects and how that connects,
Yeah, that feels more like what happened. I'd love to speak to it though.
Yeah.
One of the I'm assuming it's Doug now. One of the characters he's voicing instantly reminded me of Shipwreck from G.I. Joe, just from how he sounded. I'll never forget Shipwreck sound because there's an episode of that Shipwreck from G.I. Joe I saw as a kid where everyone melts, and it's a shipwreck adventure where he goes
Oh
around
my
like just
God.
talking to people, and they melt and mold down to nothing. Haunted me as a kid, and I still remember to this day. I'm gonna put that in a game somewhere.
Holy shit, that sounds horrifying. I do know that he voiced Psycho Mantis, if that helps.
Okay, but oh, and it was. I don't know if they're recycling some scenes, but the fact that whenever he calls the mask and people in using the computer, which in of itself we should comment, like in the 80s, a voice computer that does all that, high tech, high
Yep.
fantasy is what that was. So that's
Right.
a
Yep.
huge bit. But they always seem to go and they have the same sort of like ritual where they go in, they get their mask, and they pop out in that gas station, which is
Yep.
an interesting base to come out of, but would make sense for vehicles.
Right. And I think the gas station may have been a playset, if I remember correctly.
I'm sorry, what?
I think the gas station may have been a playset for a mask,
Yeah.
which might be why. Um, have we talked yet about the educational bits at the end?
No, because this is the first one where it happened. It didn't happen in the first episode.
Oh, it didn't. Okay. All right. Because now, yeah, then they start here because
Yeah, go ahead. You wanna go Joe it for us?
I mean, just so part of the backlash of the heavy toy commercial nature of cartoons was that in the US, it was decreed that there needed to be a certain percentage of educational content before these could be considered to be not commercials. And at least Hasbro, when they worked with Sunbow, said, Cole, okay, how long is that? 2 minutes. Excellent. Or no, I think it was like 1 minute. And say, cool, then we will literally put 1 minute at the end of the episode of educational content. And it became the kind of infamous knowing is half the battle bits, which Transformers also briefly attempted, but ultimately decided not to go with. But there are
How does the
some
Transformers do it?
the same way. Bumblebee would talk to Spike about something, and then Spike would do something stupid, and Bumblebee would say, "You're a fucking idiot," and Transformers. There's some. They did some samples of it, and they're floating around the internet. You can find them. So they did try to make them. They decided not to go with them ultimately.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's again more of the. Did you like GI Joe? Because this is just like GI Joe. Here's something that's much like GI Joe. Mask GI Joe. Right? I mean, it's so obvious, and because they have a kid character, what's interesting is it's not the kid character doing stupid shit. It's T-Bob doing stupid shit. Um,
Well, he empowers Scott sometimes though to do stupid shit.
right, right. But it seems based on this limited sample that there's a fair amount of Scott going, "No, T-Bob, this is the right thing to do," and then the adult confirming, Scott reinforcing the white status quo of America, which we'll
Yep.
get into in another episode. But it's it's awkward. It's I know what it's trying to do because that is how cartoons were made in '85, but it also, for me, moved it to they're trying really, really hard to be another thing. And when I saw those, I was just like, okay, I get it, but come on.
And but Mask would fit so well into G.I. Joe. I see how it
Yeah,
would all link up
yeah.
perfectly. And this does nothing to make that leap. And I just assume it's because it was meant to parry to those things to make money for their toys. And there wasn't a lot of additional thought put into how it could do that. And
Right. I mean, the vibe slightly. We're slightly going to the wrap up here, but just kind of quick digression since we're here is that the vibe is very. The toy company saw X, Y, and Z things that made GI Joe popular, and to a degree Transformers, and said, these cartoons need to feature these exact things. They didn't think about what made the cartoons popular. And so so it comes across as a bit of all of the wrong lessons, right? Which is not quite right. But it's they have to be diverse secret agents that wear masks in cool vehicles that flip up and have cool action features. Go. And it's like, oh well, I guess we need to have a kid sidekick. Oh yeah, sure, kid sidekick, go. And it's like, no, we don't. You don't need this. And like, but like, why are they doing this? What's the goal of this? Because Cobra, as stupid as Cobra is, they have a plan, right?
Yeah.
It's we're going to take over the world, and this allegedly secret military keeps getting in our way. Those assholes, right? Miles seems to just do whatever pops into his fucking head next. I'm
Which
gonna
is why
steal
I
us.
dir- which is
But
why which is why I paralleled it with Spectre, because
yeah,
Spectre was much the same way. It was inconsistent. We want money. We want world domination. Depends on what day of the week it is.
no, totally. I mean, honestly, take the cars and the masks out of it, and Miles Mayhem would absolutely be a fantastic Bond villain.
Yeah. And Duke is bland enough to pass as one of the Lazenby James Bond.
Oh, you're not wrong.
Anything else about this episode before we move on?
No, let's move on to this horrible pun of a title.
Season 1, episode 35, in Dutch. M.A.S.K. This is Scott's show, right? We open in Holland and them teaching us about dikes and how much of the country is below sea level. Tracker discovers that the dikes were operating normally and it must be an unnatural event. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mess it up. Wow. I don't like that phrasing. I should have rewrote that. While Scott and T-Bob deduce a mysterious windmill. Mayhem thwarts Tracker following a flying windmill that Scott and T-Bob informed him about, and he crashes into the water. Realizing that his ship doesn't fully operate, but a rocket fires in the water, he manages to escape, and then he calls in M.A.S.K. Venom brilliantly disguises their ship as an oil rig, aiding a millionaire who wants to take control of the country. But Mayhem never bluffs when the prime minister tells a millionaire to go take a hike. And then he uses a sonic vibration machine, threatening to destroy Holland's dikes if the demands aren't met. M.A.S.K. jams the device as Venom turns on the millionaire, saying he's going to take all the money. And we get an epic scuffle. And in the end, M.A.S.K. wins.
This is when I realized, no, Venom has no idea what the hell they're doing. Because now Venom's like, okay, here it is. We're going to go to Holland and we're going to back the rival to the prime minister so that he becomes prime minister. But here's a good bit. Are you ready? Here's a good bit. We're going to turn on him and actually blow up Holland. And one person, Venom, would go, how are we getting money for this? Like, just shh, it'll be fine. Why Holland? Shut up! I am Max. I'm fucking Max Mayhem, Miles Mayhem, wherever the fuck I am, and I will tell you what to do.
Oh my God. All right. Sorry, I have to pause this because I think it happened last episode, right? No, it isn't. Never mind. I don't happens next episode. I don't have to say it yet. But I do want to point out, Eddie, they made a fucking Don Quixote joke in this episode. Kids aren't going to get a Don Quixote joke. That was from me. How did they know that a old man Chris would be watching this and laugh when they made a Don Quixote joke?
Yes, and that's the worst part. That was actually the funniest gag in the whole episode, right? And I'm like, that was not for kids, and yet I really like that one.
Because you can't imagine that adults other than us are really watching the show, right?
No, right. But yeah, I mean, the straight up James Bond bullshit of like, we're gonna take this oil tanker and we're gonna take this huge tanker and we're gonna have it just turn sideways, like literally just face plant into the water and then disguise itself as an oil rig because that's totally a thing that waterborne vehicles could do. And it's just like, sure. At this point, whatever.
And so this is another thing, though. This is another flooding episode, which admittedly
Right.
this is like 20 episodes later. So if we were watching in real time, it wouldn't have bothered me as much as watching them back to back, which is also why I was a little bit confused by that. Because like that was a flooding episode, then we come to another immediate flooding episode. And that leads
Right.
to my next point, because this is when I really realized that these are just normal people. They're not
Yeah.
specialists like G.I. Joe. They just have like a certain like knowledge that they need for the show. Because of like that, then it became interesting again thinking about it, because they're going on these world trotting adventures without being physically capable of doing what Venom's people can.
Right, and, like, if the show did something more with the idea of, like you said, they're basically subject matter experts that are also all collectively good drivers and or pilots, right? If
Yeah.
they kinda lean into that a bit more, I would probably be more into this show of, like, everyone in Venom is either former military or just straight up badass asshole. And so that's why we send 6 max agents to Vietnam, just because they're trained and have really powerful weaponry, and so we need the extra numbers to make up the difference. And
Yeah.
so we're constantly fighting uphill battle. But the problem is, it's not what it is. Max Tracker just comes across as like blonde, bland, amazing guy. Who the only reason why he doesn't win every fight is because Scott inevitably fucks it up for him. And so it's just like uh, so like the characters I wanted to know more about just don't get much of a. They're just set pieces to move the toys around. Which again, it's a toy cartoon. You have to show the new toys. I get it, but the premise of the computer going, okay, here's what's going on. Let me calculate this. Here are the skill sets you need. Here are the vehicles you need. Boom. And it's like there's an interesting premise there. And having if Tracker had been more like M and behind the desk, I
Yeah.
think I would have really dug it a lot more. I think.
So essentially, Tracker needs to be Duke, who leads the Joes, but Duke is
Yeah.
really never in the field,
Right. Right.
except for when he gets a serpent thrown to his heart, but doesn't die.
Because Transformers movie tanked so badly that they freaked out and changed the ending.
Oh man, I I really want to like this show, Eddie. I keep saying it. I
Yeah,
do, because I
I
see so
know.
many great pieces that are moving around here, and oh, I really want to know: does Matt pay these people? Because they keep leaving their day jobs. I'm surprised none of them are fired. If they have, like, the pizza guy should be fired. Like, you're
Yeah,
not coming
yeah,
back, buddy.
absolutely.
Does he pay him? Like, he's obviously got a butt ton of money. We don't know why or how yet, but he's got a lot of money.
Right. What about I think Brad is the musician guy. Like he's blown off how many gigs now? It's like he's not getting booked any more gigs
Nope.
because he's the front man. He was like a backup musician. He was like the front man for the band. So like you ruined it for your entire band, asshole. And this is something that we'll get into next episode, but like something that's not clear at all until next episode is that it's supposed to be a secret that they're part members of M.A.S.K. The reason why they wear masks partly is to hide their identities. And it's like, how do you keep secret your identity when your car very clearly is the same car with different bits flipped over?
That doesn't work because it's undercut by the first episode where Professor Stevens, I know you, Matt so and so, and only you could solve this case. And he goes into the mask cave, and
Right.
then Mask goes out to solve his problem.
The very mild concession is that they never say, "Oh, I know you're a member of M.A.S.K." It's you're an adventurer, and he's like, "Yes, I solve problems. All the problems I solve happen to involve heavily armed transforming vehicles, but I'm not a member of M.A.S.K." Right? It's such a flimsy fucking excuse. In the same way that GI Joe is supposed to be a secret military unit with very clear, massive amounts of specialized military weaponry that are commonly deployed to different countries. You know?
And since it's an 80s cartoon, we're not worried about essentially Americans going into other countries
No.
dishing out justice. That's not mentioned, not referenced to kids' cartoon. That needs to teach them that American exceptionalism.
Everyone loves America in the 80s. There's no downsides to this whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh God. Anything else before we move on? We're like blowing through Mask because it's Mask.
Well, the only thing I'll say is like, the episode's called In Dutch, and I realized, okay, it's set in Holland. All right, I get the joke. Please don't say it. And at the very end, Matt Tracker's like, I guess that's because we're in Dutch, and I'm just like, oh fuck you. Why? Because A, it's the obvious joke, and B, kids don't know what that means. They don't
Once
recognize
again,
that
it's not
this is
for them.
I know.
It's
It
for
just
that
made me
random
mad.
parent in the room.
the parent to go, "What that? Why are you watching this? Turn that off. It's terrible."
All right. Last episode. Season 1, episode 40. Eyes of the Skull. M.A.S.K. We open an auction selling not stolen artifacts. Bruce bids $50K on an ancient skull, but is almost outbid by T-Bot. But it's stolen during the auction, so fortunately no one has to pay. The auctioneer apologizes to Tracker, the biggest buyer at the auction house. Tracker,
Mhm.
biggest buyer. And T-Bot discovers the trap door. Crowley, a random stranger, highlights the actual power to the skull. X-ray vision up to 15 feet. Mayhem learns the identity of M.A.S.K. Tracker calls in M.A.S.K. Since I never said it before, the Mobile Armored Strike Command. There you go. I said it this episode. While Venom kidnaps Scott, then blackmails Tracker into giving up the rest of his secrets and technology. Once again, Plot Hook Crowley tells Tracker how to win the day. What the fuck? Always call the police? How white is this
Yeah.
goddamn fucking show?
Yeah. Yeah.
End.
I got to this and I was like, "Thank God this last episode," because I would have raged quit at this point. Because Scott straight up says, "There's no downside to calling to police ever," and I'm just like, "What the actual fuck, Scott? Now you're a narc. I hated you before, but now you're a goddamn narc."
Oh, man. Oh, Eddie, the superpower that the skull has that everyone wants is X-ray vision. They have transforming vehicles, laser beams.
I will point out to you, Chris, you know who else has supervision? You know who tells me in the title sequence of the show who has supervision? Matt motherfucking Tracker has Spectrum, who has supervision.
But Eddie, that's just someone to control them and watch over them.
Clearly, that makes more sense to me. Like, I want that version of the show now because that was way better than what I actually got. Also, okay, I'm just being pedantic because I'm so mad. That's not how auctions work. You don't just raise your hand and bid. You also don't bid against yourself. That's not a thing that happens in auctions. T-Bob also
But
is
you
an
need that.
appliance, not a person. So therefore, he cannot bid because he has no bank account.
That's not true. He must have a soul, Eddie, because he can joke and banter with Scott. Are we about to talk about the humanity of Teapot? Is that where we're about to go now with this show?
T-Bot is a soulless abomination and needs to be destroyed.
Oh, God.
Right. Also, T-Bob is apparently racist, as we saw at the end of this episode. Because like, that guy's being suspicious. We should call the police. Oh wait, never mind. He's
So
not.
I think in this episode, though, or one of the ones that we watched, they dropped another joke just for us because T-Bot has a friend named Marvin.
Oh
Marvin the
yeah.
paranoid android.
Right.
I'm
yeah.
like, how many jokes are they putting in this for me to watch this bad show?
No, you're right. That was the very beginning because they're like, M.A.S.K, I don't know M.A.S.K, I know Marvin, but I don't think it's the same guy. And I was okay. That was the only time. And again, the very first episode, I was like, okay, T-Bob maybe not so bad. And then it got way worse after that. But like T-Bob, who's trying to fast talk his way out of a job, that was actually kind of funny. Okay, I can get that. But so yeah, this horribly plot convenient skull.
Venom steals a mask to go rob a bank that's not the real point, but to really discover the identity of the masked people. To then blackmail them to get the stuff here. But that doesn't work if you read the comic that bleeds into the show about how all this works because Miles would already know Matt.
Oh, jeez. I didn't know that. Oh, my God.
Because remember Andy, Matt's brother? They all three of them built the technology together. Miles kills Andy in a fire and steals technology.
Right. And then, like, and so, like, part of me was going, okay, their identity is laughably the same, but that's where they're going. It's like, okay. I was like, part of me is going, it would be mildly interesting if the next 25 episodes of this show have to deal with the fact that now Venom knows your identity. Like, but I know that's not how this show works. So how are they going to undo this? And they kept going for a while. I'm like, okay, I'm really confused as to how this is going to be undone. And then Crowley's like, if you destroy the mask, all of their memories get wiped out. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yep. Magic.
Also, I mean, can we just talk about the fact that the skull is very obviously just magic? It's just magic.
Do you think the radiation meteor wasn't just magic that healed one of their team members?
It was magic that was at least pretending vaguely to be science. This was even trying. It's just like, it could see things and it erases memory. How? Because it's a crystal skull. That's the only explanation I need to give you.
But you know who loved this so much, Eddie? Steven Spielberg. That's why he went and made Indiana Jones: The Crystal Skull. He saw this episode and went, "Ah!"
You know what? I completely believe that because it's about as good.
And I'm referencing Indy because essentially the other element of the show that I didn't mention before, I can only save to now, is Indiana Jones. They travel around the world. They're
Yeah.
looking to discover primarily artifacts, maybe a device, but like an artifact of some kind. Didn't take it. And it's reinforced by the fact that Matt is the most buys the most shit at the auction house, which are obviously artifacts from other countries.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like if that was the conceit, right? Like, I formed Venom because we're going to find the 13 magical artifacts that will make me master of the world. And M.A.S.K is like, no, we have to stop them, but we're just a bunch of academics, so we need cars to stop him. Again, that might have been cool, right?
They could have just called in Scooby Doo to help fight those ghosts.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you for catching my 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo reference there. I appreciate
You're welcome.
that.
I,
But
I want to say good things, but it's so hard, man.
like, I mean, final thoughts. I mean, I'm with you in the sense of when you suggest this, I was like, yeah, I have seen it as a kid. It's probably not as bad as I remember, because I had terrible opinions when I was a kid. I have terrible opinions as an adult, but they're at least could pretend like they're useful. And then I started watching this, and I was like, okay, it was just a pilot. Maybe oh no, it's not getting better. Because the premise does sound cool. The
Yeah.
premise should be an amazing '80s cartoon, but this was a perfect example of me going, I don't know why this show isn't more fondly remembered than watching it and going, oh, that's why.
And one of the reasons I didn't say let's not do it is because I wanted to compare it to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was a
Yeah,
show that made a bunch of money, a crap ton of toys. It was a push and a drive, and it was super popular. This was something that wanted to make a crap ton of money, was not super popular, and it's because of the intent behind the two. Like his intent was purely for marketing and money. Turtles was purely from artistic vision with the artist controlling their product.
right. Yeah.
And I want to be able
Um,
to note that for everything that we go through going forward.
right. No, that's actually a good contrast because TMNT started from a cool concept that led to toys that then became a different cool concept. This is here's a bunch of toys. I don't know, make a cartoon around it because that's what you do now. And again, like there's bits of this where like I could see what could have been cool. Like if either the animation studio had more control over things, or if Kenner had more interest in controlling things, I could see a middle path, right? Um, Having seen this, I now understand why the 2018 reboot more or less ditched all of this backstory and made a completely new backstory. Same characters, but different backstory.
Okay.
Because this is just nonsense. Um, but and it's like it needs to be either more GI Joe or more James Bond, and it's neither of them, right? Because if they had leaned into the James Bond, because it's almost there, right? They travel around the world. They have a car that has secret weapons, and they're fighting against an international organization with a weird acronym. Like it's like 75% James Bond. It's like just if they go into a little further with that, just make them all secret agents.
Yeah.
I think that also could have worked. But again, like, there's always just a piece missing, a step too far, a bit too by the numbers, never quite pulls together. And the fact that we're here 40 episodes in and going, oh, fuck this show. It's like, okay, it clearly never pulls out of that.
Which obviously doesn't, because if, all right, we're 40 in. The first season, I think, was around 65 episodes, and the second was only 10. And they shifted from all this globe-trotting crime fighting to a
Right.
racing-based format. From my understanding, I read it. I am not watching it. And that was utterly not successful. And then I think they made 2 movies, but I think the movies were bits and pieces of like that last season carved together. Then there's copyright issues with it. And there was talks actually of a live action version of this in the 2010s. And they had like one of the directors from the Fast and Furious, which would make sense if you're going to make this
Okay.
movie.
Yeah.
But that never went anywhere either.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's
It
so many good ideas are here. They're just horribly executed.
Right, which is why I think to your point, I could see why there's such keen interest to try to keep rebooting it because yeah, there's something here that if you got the pieces together would have taken off, could take off even, um, but ugh, it makes so many mistakes every step of the way. And again, some of them are in hindsight. I will say, a lot of this is in 2025 vision. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. But even that, even from an 80s lens, there's still a lot of missteps here, right? Like two sidekicks is way too many. It's too many, but certainly one too many. Um, uh, uh, what Venom's trying to do again, Cobra, very clear mission statement: control the world. Ideally, with Cobra Commander at the head of it. Every other plan stems from that core thesis. They're ridiculous, but at least they make sense. Decepticons, we want energy. Every plan ultimately evolves giving us energy so we can go back and conquer Cybertron. That is our plan. Uh, uh, Venom's plan is fuck shit up, I guess.
And I liked Mayhem as a character.
Yeah.
Mayhem would be a good antagonist for whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I like Mayhem.
All right, Eddie, what are we going to do next time to make this bad choice go away?
Well, we said we weren't going to do it, but I think it's important that we, since we just did Transforming Vehicles, we should go to the first Transforming Vehicle cartoon. So obviously, I'm talking about Challenge of the GoBots. Challenge of
I
the
thought you were
GoBots
going to talk
episode.
about that 70s anime.
Oh, we'll get into
Or
this.
even-
There's a whole weird
Or we
continuity
could even
about
go
GoBots.
further back. Oh, but you were saying Challenge of the GoBots.
Yeah. So we're just do the first 5 episodes because they're more of that linked origin stories. So it's a little hard to pull them out in isolation. So it's all first season, episode 1, Battle for Gobatron, episode 2, Target Earth, episode 3, Conquest of Earth, episode 4, Earthbound, and episode 5, The Final Conflict. Where can people find you if they want to find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Darker Hue, or you can come to the Darker Hue Discord.
If you want to find me, you can find me at pugsteady.com. That is my website. That is where you can find me on Blue Sky. And you can also find me on the Darker Hue Discord, where I'm happy to talk about anything but this show, because Jesus Christ, this show. With that, we'll see you next time.